Hello, everyone. This is David Leibowitz with our first musical breakdown. I originally said I was never going to do these outside of that Sonic episode, but I'm going to do them now. And we're going to start off with Ramlethal Valentine from the Guilty Gear series and her theme, Necessary Discrepancy. First, a little brief lore breakdown. I will give a disclaimer. I have only seen Exard Sign's story in full. I have seen the first couple chapters of Exard Revelator's story, and I've only seen snippets of Strives, as in I have not actually started it. So, with that in mind, I'm here to mostly talk about the philosophy. So you first think that she's gonna be the villain of Exard Sign, she's shaking things up, she's fighting Soul, she's doing all that bad stuff, and then they tame her into a schoolgirl. I'm not kidding. Especially who she is, since she's an artificially created person. Let me just show you a scene of how profound this is. A scene of her eating a hamburger.
Right! We want to see you smile, for real!
This is ridiculous. Tools don't need emotions.
Alright, then explain why you're still sticking to Mother's rules even though we finished our mission.
Because
you don't feel like you want to betray her, right?
no, this is my duty.
I bought you something really tasty. A hamburger from Danny Missiles.
What?
It's delicious!
I don't care how food tastes. All that matters is that it provides the correct nutrients in the correct amounts.
Okay, I get it. Can you at least tell me what you think about this piece of nourishment?
I suppose.
You can see here that she was told to not have emotions. And with this funny scene, she kind of accepts humanity for a second, which is great. And basically, throughout XR Revelator and XR Strive, she starts to show more and more humanity, which is great. Because again, she's doing her best to not be an imitation of the villain of Guilty Gear 2, Valentine. So, yeah, that's basically it. Robotic person trying to find humanity. Let's see if that plays into the theme. Well, now that we're finally out of the way talking about Ram's backstory a little bit, let's get into a few details before we get to this. So, I got inspired to do this music reactions because of That Man's Theme. Except, That Man's Theme's current lyric video has a few errors, so I'm going to wait until CloudDrop over here makes this video in the same style he's done for everyone else. So, in the meantime, I'm going to throw out some ground rules and disclaimers. I am not trained in musical theory. The best thing I have, like other people, I am a trained singer, though my last lessons were in high school. And I also am going to primarily, after getting a little bit about Ram's backstory out of the way, focus a lot more on the substance as opposed to what else is going on. So, if you want a more detailed breakdown of Ramlethal as a character, wait until I properly go through her character as a whole. But for me, this song is so rich on its own that you will have a good time with just me reacting to it. So, now, no more further ado, let us react to Necessary Discrepancy, the track that Guilty Gear Strive put as the name of its album. They clearly showed how much importance it is to them for it, and we're gonna see if that's the case. This also, again, is not a blind reaction at all. I've listened to this so many times, and I love the Guilty Gear Strive soundtrack as a whole anyway. So, let's go. Alright, so we got a little technical song. But hey, wait. We do have something not related to the song itself. What we do have is the notion that starts every match in Guilty Gear Strive: mankind knew that they cannot change society. Now let's put that a little further and see if it demonstrates anything more about this. So instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts. When I break down Smell the Game, we'll get a lot more into that, but already the basis of this game has so much Nietzsche involved. Nietzsche, if you are living under a rock, is the guy that said God is dead. But he's a lot more than the guy that said God is dead. And also, if you think he's a nihilist, that's completely off. We will show exactly why Nietzsche is far more than just an emo nihilist. And that is a lot about what we will find with, which is love. But based on these lyrics alone, we'll get into this more, but the idea that we don't fundamentally understand who we are, and we are constantly at war with ourselves, so we blame other animals. And Nietzsche says we gotta emulate those animals. And we'll show when we get to Smell the Game how that lyric progresses and gets even more interesting. We got some techno going on here, because she is, as we said, a tool. So, denial, la sola estonso. This is, if I'm correct, one of the only few songs to not have an completely English lyrics. It's a very small portion of this song. This, and then Mirror of the World, has a lot of Japanese in it, as fitting for a samurai character. But what does this mean, and what language is this in? So, Lasla Estonso is the sun is the center. The sun is the center. But let me get back to you for that for a second. Alright. Back, now that I have looked again properly at what is going on with these lyrics. So yes, as the wiki states, this is Esperanto, which is a manufactured language to try to connect people around the world and be sort of a universal language. Think about, for me, it's like the Baha'i, which is a religion that is all around the world that tries to connect everything as well, trying to connect all religions. This is trying to connect all people in the world, but it's also very artificial. And Ramlethal is an artificial person, and with the techno things in the background, we hear, well, these are lyrics that are not emotional. So let's continue with the lyrics. So, La sola estonso is the only future. Terra, terra, the earth, la historio. The earth is history. The only future is that the earth is history. So think about this. The earth is history from a outer presence. So is this all we gotta think? Is this the only hope? We're done with the earth? Is that it? Let's continue. So, we're hearing here with the techno in the background, that there is no will, there is no void, there is no growth. This is the philosophy of sort of Schopenhauer, who basically says that fundamentally under our wills, under our selfish nature, there is no room for us to be better. Acting upon the will, the only way to get above the will, above our selfish desire to hurt other people, is to go into the woods, or to have compassion, but that's very hard to get to, or to listen to music. That is a way, so there's a little bit of that here. But there is something else, is also the general Christian ascetic notion of retreating from the world. There's nothing in the world. They're under our bodies, the will. The will is our bodies. And it just burns up time. It just burns up time. All we can do is keep on dying. And that just burns up time. So let's continue. Look at these. These are all these 7 deadly, all these sins, banging, sex, cheat. All this stuff is going on. What is there in the world? Schopenhauer states the world is a tragedy because all our works in our lives are tragedy. What is there? Why should we go out into the world? Why should we experience any hope of life at all? And I want to go back to soon when we hear again the next lyrics and we hear what the role of the female voice as well as the more raging male voice is getting at.
There is a will, there is a void, there is no goal. Just burns the time, just burns the time. Running, calling, dying, just burns the time.
So what is that female voice? As we talked about a little earlier, the female voice is Valentine. Ramlethal was not told to have any emotions. And that could also be, again, Nietzsche's slave morality. The idea that we can constantly just stay inside the world, stay in our own little shells, away from this evil, cruel world. And it's the mother, in a way. Nietzsche, this might have some of Nietzsche's misogyny in here. The mother is telling you, oh no, just stay with me, everything will be fine. But fundamentally, you can't. This is then, goes a little Jungian. Jungian, you know, if we've listened to this channel before, we love to talk about Jung, especially in the context of persona, that Erich Neumann, who we haven't really talked about, talks about the stages of life, and more in the Western sense than in... It's different in the Japanese sense, as we've started to talk about a little bit with Kawai's work in Persona 4. The mother is something to be overcome, in a sense. The mother is the dragon to be slain, which goes back to Nietzsche's works in Zarathustra, his very biblical narrative where he puts this figure who is messianic of Zarathustra to teach this notion of the eternal recurrence, which we'll talk a little bit about when we talk about that man. But the idea is that, fundamentally, well, we find ourselves caged in by our mother, but we must overcome the mother to go forward, because she holds us back and nurtures us. This is, again, how we become Nietzsche's Übermensch. We transform from the lion into the child who creates new values. And since Ramlethal is a newly formed person, really, her arc is kind of turning her as well into more of a child, as we showed with that earlier clip. So let's continue. The loving, foolish world is down there. Now we finally get into Nietzsche. And I haven't really been able to talk about Nietzsche proper. We talked about Nishitani with Kirby, but the loving, foolish world is down here. What this is all trying to get at is that this mother, Valentine, is calling to Ramlethal and saying, everything is fine, just stay in heaven, stay a beautiful doll for me, be my puppet, all of that. While there's a voice in Ramlethal's head that says, no, I need to be a person, I need to have emotions. The loving, foolish world is down there. The world is not so cruel. There is no original sin. There is none of that. We are all perfectly fine. Let us leave heaven and let us go downstairs. And maybe earlier on, shine and dark, symbiosis. There is symbiosis. Symbiosis is something in biology. We live and animals have connections with each other. Shine and dark. Darkness and light. Now we get a little Taoist. Have coexistence. The problem with the Christian morality is that it gets at such of a dualism between these two and creates, as we'll get a little further, good and evil, which are just tools to subjugate people. So let's continue and show how much of a masterpiece this song is. Black and white, two are one. Yin and yang. The two are one. Fundamentally, when we live in a world that understands that we have, as in Jung says, a shadow will be much more loving. Nietzsche states, love lies beyond good and evil. Now, to understand what Nietzsche is saying is, again, Nietzsche argues, which I don't fully agree with, that morality is created, as many people say, I mean, even some evolutionary biologists and psychologists say that religion was created as a means of making rules for us. So Nietzsche says, okay, we make a world where there are rules, and these rules determine what is good and what is evil. Now, Nietzsche wants to go beyond what is good and what is evil. He wants to go to a state of what is good and what is bad. So good and bad are fundamentally different, because to call something evil is to call it sinful. And when we call something evil, then we can never open ourselves up to the possibility that it might be good. We'll get, again, a little bit of what's going on with that man regarding his theme. The two are one. When we find a far more nuanced take of the world, we see how much more beautiful it becomes. Let's continue.
Necessary discrepancy. The loving foolish world still kind of.
This might be a slight dig on a lot of things. I don't know if it's as big of a dig on Hinduism. Again, Hinduism is a pretty chill and is much better without the whole good and evil stuff. Way better, actually. But in the sense, okay, it's still going on. The means that it's still going on is that this is a materialist argument. There is no illusion. There is no false Gnostic thing that, oh, it's all in our heads. Oh, it's not real. Oh, everything actually is sin. No, the loving, foolish world is still going on. You got to get in your heads that things are out there. As Nietzsche says, things are fundamentally out there. And you just got to stretch yourself out, go into the woods, and you'll see it right there. Let's continue.
If I move without a sky, it's what we idolize eternity. Tomorrow.
If a room without a sky is what we idolize, it's a dead tomorrow. This is a little hard lyric, but what I've gone from it is that the room without a sky is... So if I'm in heaven and I'm not on the earth, I'm praising heaven and not on the earth, that means that there technically would be a sky, but we're not looking up at the sky. We're not looking up the heavens. We're already in the sky. So the room without a sky means, one, again, we're completely cut off from the earth. It just means, hey, I'm in my bubble and I just want to stay there because everything else is sin. Or the room without a sky is I'm in heaven and I'm not on the earth. And as we said at the beginning, terra terra la historio. The earth is history. Nietzsche in Zarathustra very much wants you to praise the earth. Praise being alive. Praise being an organic being. Terra terra no historio. It's good. Yeah, so the room without a sky is what we idolize. We're all done because we're all going to be in our bubbles and we're going to think everything is sin and we can't interact. It's going to be bad.
Right and wrong are not for sure.
Right and wrong are not for sure. Again, saying what is good and what is evil as a thou shalt is going to block too many people out from this notion of love. Saying this is evil, this is good, when the good thing actually might be evil, like, I don't know, the Crusades, or this is evil, and it's actually not, like, us being in our bodies, us doing things, I don't know, women having rights, all these things that hold us back in our life, that is evil? No, right and wrong are not for sure. You cannot justify what is fundamentally these things. Let's continue.
The castle made of sand will fall.
So a few people refer to the notion of the castle made of sand, but I think you don't have to overthink this. I was going to want to reference Nietzsche's fortress and say, okay, let's go into our fortress and it's made of brick because that's solitude and that's great. But I think it's simple that this world order is a castle made of sand. It will eventually fall, and the world of postmodern morality, where we're all Ubermenches and we're all in love, will fundamentally happen. That's, I think, to not overthink this lyric. You could go into so many things that, I like to overthink things, but I think pretty simple that that's what's happening here.
One thing is certain,
Heart and heart. One thing is certain. Heart and heart. Love is beyond good and evil. What is certain is in our body. Our morality has already been created. We do need philosophy. We do need things to regulate that. But our gifts of being moral creatures are in us and do not need to be super thought out from high-minded principles. Our animal bodies give us that ability. So one thing is certain. Heart and heart. Something that, going to Ramlethal's story, she lacks. She's like 2B at the beginning of Nier Automata, saying, I'm ordered to not have emotions. Like, no. You are a thing becoming a person, and that makes you, your heart. Not your head, not some high-minded ideals, your heart, your love. That is all that is needed. Now we get to the verse that's a little iffy, but I'll do my best. Get most of the slack. Again, you got the hard sword, the color coming in. Empty precepts disguising. The empty precepts, again, the notions of the false, this morality imposed on us that is disguising. Let's see what they're disguising as. Good intentions. So there's multiple ways you can think of this. Either the good intentions, especially since a person right here has put this in red. Good intentions. Good intentions, like what that man is doing with his good intentions. Again, a lot of evil is paid with good intentions. So the good intentions to help people are from empty precepts. Another way you could read this, though, is that the empty precepts of our just simple interactions are actually our good intentions, and we're just simply interacting, though my likelihood is that the lyric is the good intentions are... They're good intentions, but they're not good. Again, post good and evil, now we go to good and bad. A clean page is a blank page. Never, never. No, you can never be... Actually, yes, this is clearly taking a dig at, again, original sin. The notion in Christianity, not Judaism, that you are born, we are all born with this sin, and we can do with it. Again, that doesn't mean we're horrible people. It just means that our bodies are fundamentally... something about is impure, which goes most hardcore with Augustine in his Confessions, where he says that when I was a baby and I wanted my mother's milk, I was evil. That was sinful. Now, again, I don't want to paint all of Christianity under that branch. I know original sin gets very complicated and how it goes, but why can't we just live under a blank page? Why can't we all just come as blank slates? Not saying that... Another way, though, is to possibly say, hey, we have the notion of a tabula rasa, and we all come out with no internal bodies, no internal feelings or moral precepts, and they need to be implanted on society. Never, never, we will fundamentally... No, we have our morals. We can act. We know how to react to people. Let's continue. Like a wave launching, we leave out the chances. We leave out the chances that there will be any chaos, to have complete order in our lives, and to regulate morality, and to create everyone to be machines like Ramlethal was in Exarch Sign. We need to have complete control. There are no chances. We can't have chances in society. Everyone needs to behave under the laws of good and evil, and that's it. That's all it is. And we need to free ourselves with that, possibility, as the lyrics will go as what is the cure to this. A black page is a blank page. A black page is a blank page. No, never. Still, black page, nothing. No, never, never. You don't get... I'm painting right on you right now. There is no black page. I can't look into my dark self and find good from it. I can't turn darkness into light. No. No, never, never. Again, it also might be actually the opposite and saying, hey, never, never, no, you are fundamentally blank, and I can manipulate you to be that. Can manipulate to be you my tool. No. Wing a valley and a will. This is a very deep lyric right here. Weighing up value and will. So, if we think about what is the difference between value and will, I just took a whole course on this. This is why I'm gushing so much about the notion of will and value. What is valuable? And how's that relation to the will? So the will, again, according to Nietzsche, is the will to power. The will to fight for oneself, to dominate other people. But that's, when you take a lot deeper step, the will to power is not egalitarian, but it's also not actually that bad. It doesn't actually mean we should just beat each other up. It's a lot more complicated. But weighing up value and will, either saying that this is just, which is, again, this goes to what that man Steve is going to be, just talking about all these big, high-minded questions about life and everything. What is the difference between value and will? Is life the value, and life connecting to our vital will? We'll hear a little later again how that might be probably the answer to that. Is that life itself is the question. Life itself is the pure value, not anything else, nothing high-minded. But now this person needs to weigh up value and will. That's fundamentally it. All right, let's continue. Get out, people original! So get up before they reach you now. That's again saying, don't let those people come and manipulate your mind and turn you all into slaves. Let's not do that. Again, when I say slaves, it's not in the current historical sense, but it's not necessarily meant to be a good thing either, though Nietzsche's notion of the master and the slave, if you actually look a lot deeper, which I think when I talk about Persona 5, after I finally beat Royal myself, we'll get into what the difference between the master and the slave is, but the Übermensch, the overman, goes beyond master and slave, so there actually is something. Slave is preferred less than the master, who constantly is weak and wants some sort of compassion and stuff. Well, pity is the clear word. But the master ain't so much better. So, but either way, don't let them come and tell them your values. Basically, that's what it's saying. I don't need to be recognized for everything. You don't need some high-minded people telling you what to do. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. Seriously. There is a slight notion, I will go deeper into this when I look into that man's theme again, the notion about being recognized by God, and the notion that comes from Sartre, who's a French existentialist. I still need to look a lot more into that, but I don't need to be recognized for everything. I don't need to be that. I don't need to be pleasing mother all the time. Like, again, she was a tool for Valentine. No, I don't need to be recognized. Let's continue. This is, don't take them down to the ground without a face-to-face. Well, actually, if you look at this a little closer, don't take them down to the ground without a face-to-face is fundamentally meaning I can't beat you up unless I know your opinion. When we finally have dialogue, then I can be a face-to-face. Then I have the right to criticize you and maybe even physically attack you. Not giving any, personally, any condolences or allowing for anyone to do that, but to take, like, so metaphorically take someone down to the ground. Okay, I take it down to your ground, your philosophy. When I face-to-face you, when I talk to you personally, as opposed to just taking someone down to the ground without even talking to them at all. That's what it's saying. I just want you to hear someone's little voice. What's the little voice? What's the little voice? That is the voice of life. The voice of life. No heaven, none of that. Life. As Jung says, when we embrace our own animal values, will be the greatest principle. Life is the ultimate value. Not some high-minded ideal. Nothing up there. Just what is in ourselves. That is the beauty of the world. Because the world itself is beauty. You've talked to me how much, and I will talk further about the importance of spirituality, the importance of meaning in life. And this is demonstrating that this song is not at all about how life is meaningless. We started off by saying there is a will, the will of Schopenhauer's will of there's the will that's going to constantly attack people, and we should just go into the forest and do that, which is a void. It's nothing. It's Sartre's nothingness. No. I want to hear someone's little voice, the voice of life. That's what we need. Continue again, this gusto in singing, gusto in emotions, because the person has finally gone into their senses of what they really think about things. They're not a tool, they're not a toy, they are Ramlethal Valentine. And I will, you know what? I will have that last name Valentine with pride. It is me now. I am individuated. I am not just an evil daughter of Valentine from Guilty Gear 2, I am Ramlethal Valentine, who likes puppies and other animals. And is, let's continue. yin and yang, black and white two are one. No, I'm affirming it with the sing. He's affirming that these things are correct. The black and white two are one. There is no good and evil. There's good and bad, and we must evaluate each case with far more nuance than calling someone a sinner based on some arbitrary reason. So what is a necessary discrepancy? The necessary discrepancy is just this notion that a necessary discrepancy, again, which they wanted to title the whole album for the game for, it's necessary to have that discrepancy that black and white are one, as opposed to saying, okay, we can have black and white and they can be different, but there's a discrepancy, that there is this still difference between yin and yang, between darkness and light, but that can fundamentally blend, and there's a discrepancy in peeling them apart, peeling down the layers of what is the truth of a situation. Now we're getting to Persona 4. Let's continue before I start talking that more. The singer, with all his heart, affirming, the loving, foolish world is just fine. I don't care. I don't need the rapture. I just want to be on this earth like Zarathustra and affirm it, because that is fine. We may all be fools. We may all be playful. We may all be doing all of that. But you know what? It's down there. I'm going to go down there, and it's just fine.
If I move without a sky, it's what we are, lies inside tomorrow. Right and wrong, and not for sure. The castle made of sound will fall. One thing is certain. To leave the door, it can hurt me, it can hurt you.
It can hurt me. It can hurt you. But why is that so bad? Nietzsche very famously affirmed the value of suffering. Many others have as well, but Nietzsche especially, the notion, very famous saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Suffering, we all suffer in our lives, and that allows us to grow. That allows us to be human. That allows us to be an animal, allows us to be moral. To take a world away from that is going to get away at some part of our essence. Isn't that bad? And yes, we'll talk about that a lot more with P5 Royal. Don't worry. It will be there. It will be there. We'll talk about it when I finally finish that game. But yes, all things are made of. All things are made of. This again, going back to a more materialist argument, that all things are made of. And what are they all made of? Let's end it here.
All things are made of heart.
All things are made of heart and heart. Let's just love each other. Let's just live in this world. Let's just live beautifully. I think that's about it. Ramlethal, you gave us a masterpiece. That's all I really have to say. And yeah. Hope you guys are still appreciating that man, also known as Asuka R, or Asuka R. Kreutz. We'll get to him eventually, because, again, listening to that theme got me to go to this. But we will get to him eventually in that masterpiece. Either way, this has been David Lee with Philosophy, Video Game Philosophy. Bye!